At the start of the movie, a group of kids ventures into a forbidden cave to conduct research. 10 minutes later, they notice something horrifying, so one of the girls decides to get out and call for help. Surprisingly, when she reaches the top, she finds that Earth has completely changed. There are massive rock formations, sandstorms wreaking havoc everywhere, and even a spaceship in the vicinity. This implies that somehow, over 1,000 years have passed outside the cave while they were inside. The movie then flashes back to how it all started. Archaeology professor Hopper, along with his dog, Boss, is searching near an isolated cave system. They come across a van, apparently from the 1970s. It turns out Hopper is searching for a group of hippies who went missing decades ago, and the van belonged to them. As the search continues, Boss starts barking as if he senses something and wants to go home immediately. However, disregarding his wishes, Hopper enters one of the caves and discovers a strange cowboy frozen in time. The man appears to be from a different era, which is evident from his clothing and gun. Taken aback, Hopper gets back in his car and drives home. There, he is greeted by his two students, Taylor and Jackie, who are excited to start their new exploration trip. To their dismay, Hopper tells them that the plan has changed, and he will be going alone. Shortly after, he discovers a strange layer that separates the atmosphere between the outside world and the cave. Although skeptical, Hopper enters the lair, and as soon as he does, the frozen man starts moving. In the next scene, it has been 2 days since the students last heard from their professor, so they decide to look for him. But since they don't have a vehicle, Taylor is forced to ask for help from a girl named Kara, who has a massive crush on him. Kara immediately agrees to bring her dad's Jeep, but only if she and her little sister, Vives, can join them. To make matters worse, the archaeology students are also compelled to take another kid, Furby, with them, as he and Vives are shooting for their school project. After a while, the group arrives at the spot and discovers the abandoned minivan from before. Upon checking, they learn that the hippies the professor was looking for are, in fact, his parents. They ventured into the cave system decades ago in search of the Fountain of Youth, but never returned. Then, they discover a worn-out rope that leads them to a different part of the cave. Jackie follows the rope through a slender tunnel and finds that it has been cut off. She also notices that the cave goes very deep, which is likely where the professor has gotten lost. Taylor asserts that the rope is too old to belong to Professor Hopper, but he nonetheless decides to go down and inspect the cave. The girls join him, while Furby is ordered to keep watch since he's too scared of the dark. While climbing down the massive cave, Kara comes across the same strange barrier and informs Taylor that the temperature is different on the other side. Despite this, they continue their descent until they finally reach the base of the cave. Following this, the movie cuts back to 2 days before, when Professor Hopper first entered the barrier. As he is slowly making his way through the cave, he suddenly hears a scream, followed by a terrifying howl. Alarmed, Hopper starts running back and reaches the entrance, where he notices the sunlight flickering strangely. When he finally gets outside, it's already nighttime, despite him having been in the cave for merely 2 minutes. He hurries to his truck, but finds it covered in overgrown plants. In fact, the whole area, once a desert, is now a dense forest, implying that decades have passed since Hopper entered the mysterious cave. Shortly after, he comes across Kara's dilapidated Jeep and Taylor's backpack, so he decides to return to the cave to look for them. Back in the present, the group explores the cave until they hear the same terrifying howl that Hopper heard earlier. Scared that something is lurking in the dark, they decide to abandon their mission and head home. Jackie goes first, but as she is climbing, the rope suddenly cuts, causing her to fall from a considerable height. As a result, she fractures her leg, while Taylor, who is trying to save her, breaks his arm. Taylor then tries to check on the second rope, but surprisingly, it has also been cut. They deduce that Furby has been messing with them. An angry Taylor tries calling him on the radio, but the boy doesn't respond. By this time, the group is panicking, and as they brainstorm ideas to get out of the cave, a loud thud is heard in the background, as if something fell from above. The group decides to venture further into the tunnel until they come across a place where the sky is visible. Surprisingly, just like Hopper witnessed earlier, the sun keeps flickering continuously, as if day is turning into night in the blink of an eye. Despite this, the genius Taylor believes that Furby is playing another prank on them with his flashlight. However, to their horror, when they continue inspecting the place, they find Furby lying dead on the side. His neck is broken, and there are nasty marks on his face. The sight devastates the group, and they start fearing that someone is after them. When Taylor finds Furby's cut rope, they become certain of it. Fortunately, the group finds the little boy's GoPro still in working condition and decides to check what caused his demise. In the video, Furby waits for the group to return for days, but to no avail. He tries everything, calling them through the radio, screaming through every hole in the cave, and even throwing rocks for a hint, but he never gets any response. When he gets bored, he wanders through the nearby area and comes across the hippies' minivan from the 70s, which has a journal inside. The journal mentions that the mysterious cave contains a fountain of youth, which can miraculously heal people or even bring the dead back to life. This is the reason why Hooper's parents went into the cave, as his mom was suffering from a rare form of cancer. A few more days pass by, and Furby has exhausted all his food and water supply. Assuming that his friends are dead, he decides to leave the place, but for that, he needs the Jeep keys from Taylor. Hence, he decides to climb down the cave and retrieve them himself. But when he crosses the mysterious barrier, he notices the sky changing rapidly. Before he can make sense of the phenomenon, the rope snaps automatically, resulting in a deadly fall. The footage leaves the group in a state of shock, confusion, and sadness. They are perplexed as to how Furby spent days outside while it has only been 30 minutes for them inside the cave. Now, the group is desperate to get out of the place. Since Kara is the only one who is fit and not injured, she is tasked with free climbing her way out of the massive cave. After a bit of struggle, Kara finally gets out of the cave. The area, which was once covered with dense green forests, has turned into an uninhabitable barren land, with sandstorms brewing in the distance. The oxygen supply is also very low, causing Kara to keep coughing. But she notices a strange spaceship-like object floating in the distance, indicating that time has moved on by several millennia. When she gets back into the cave, Taylor and the others are upset that she didn't even try. It turns out that while Kara was outside for a whole 30 minutes, only a few seconds passed for the group inside the cave. Kara shows her camera, which verifies her claim that she did, in fact, go outside. Finally, Taylor deduces that, for some reason, time inside the cave is slowed down, and every time the sun flickers, it means that one day has passed. He adds that this is the reason why the ropes were being cut off, as the friction over the years made them fragile. Hearing all this, Vives decides to rewatch Furby's footage once again, and when she does, she discovers something shocking. In one of the frames, the sky is changing its color. The dark sky is winter, and the light one is summer. This concludes that every second inside the cave is not a day outside, but, in fact, an entire year. The revelation terrifies the group, and they become even more desperate to escape. Once Kara regains her energy, she again attempts to get out of the cave, but just then, a futuristic-looking ladder is thrown there out of nowhere. Then, a giant alien-like figure starts climbing down it, prompting everyone to back off. When the alien reaches the cave, suddenly, a barbaric man-eater attacks him. But the giant alien easily subdues and ties the man-eater with a high-end electronic device. Then, he starts going after the group, causing them to flee in horror. After a while, Taylor and the gang arrive at a mysterious place where a group of man-eaters are devouring their recent victim. It appears to be the same cowboy from the start of the movie. Unfortunately, the man-eaters notice the humans and begin chasing after them. In order to buy others time to flee, Taylor makes the ultimate sacrifice and fights the beasts alone. Sadly, he is no match, and the man-eaters brutally finish him off. Once they leave the place to chase after the others, Kara sneaks inside and gets devastated to see Taylor lying dead. As she weeps in despair, the giant alien approaches the two and drags Taylor to a small pool of water, which appears to be the fountain of youth. Lo and behold, he comes back to life, and the myth, which was always laughed at by others, turns out to be real. But before the group can rejoice, the man-eaters return and start attacking the giant. This time, they outnumber him and even manage to take his helmet off, and eventually trap the man-eaters with his equipment. After the altercation, the couple tries to help the giant up to his feet, but they fail. It appears as if the oxygen inside the Earth's atmosphere is poisonous for him, causing his internal organs to fail. At the same time, Vives and Jackie also arrive and notice the devastation lying around. Before dying, the giant displays a news report about the group's disappearance several millennia ago. He also shows them many other clips indicating that the living conditions on Earth have become uninhabitable, so humans have left for another planet. A special spaceship called the Ark is responsible for transporting the humans, and it is the same object that Kara had seen earlier. In the next scene, as Taylor searches the cave for more clues, he suddenly comes across Professor Hopper lying injured on the floor. But what he sees next shocks him to the core. In front of them are several other layers of time, which move at even slower rates. In the first layer, Hopper's parents are frozen, while in the deeper layers, several prehistoric men are fighting one another to seize the Fountain of Youth. Hopper then explains that the whole system of caves is designed to keep out humans and other organisms from using the Fountain of Youth. Taylor tries to escort him back to safety, but Hopper insists on staying there. Shortly after, Taylor returns to his group and puts the dead Furby into the Fountain of Youth. Jackie also heals her injured leg there. But just as they are about to leave, the barbarians again surround them. With nowhere to go, the group decides to use the high-tech ladder of the alien. Kara goes first, but when she reaches the top, she finds out that the entrance has been filled with water. Suddenly, a creature yanks her up, much to the horror of the remaining group. Now, Taylor and others are in a perilous situation. If they go up, the creatures will kill them, but if they go back down, the barbarians will eat them. A few seconds later, a fully transformed Kara returns to the cave and pulls everyone up with a high-tech rope. A while later, she also pulls Furby, Professor Hopper, and his parents. It turns out the creatures that pulled Kara earlier are actually human beings that evolved with the change in time. And despite Kara being gone for mere seconds in the cave, she, in fact, lived several years outside. In the final scene, the group is brought to the Ark, which is on its course to look for a new planet to live on. The Ark is being controlled by evolved creatures who speak a completely different language. The movie ends as the spaceship blasts into space, leaving the blue planet behind forever. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.